Maybe you could tell, but when this radiator mount got bent in, it kind of messed up the whole fuse box thing here. But it's got various pieces that kind of fit together right here. So it's looking better now. I removed my battery so that I could kind of get in here and just try and get these pieces together. There's kind of a front piece right around here. Sort of snaps together, and just want to get that back as well as I can. Looks like maybe a piece broke off here, but as long as I can kind of get that more or less where it's supposed to be, I'll feel okay about that. And now to this problem. So the force of the impact severed a bunch of these wires here in this main wiring loom here in the engine. And in case you didn't know, this is all kind of one big piece, one big huge massive array of wires that goes all the way throughout the engine. Connects those lights there and this one. This looks like it's the end, or right here we've got some, it kind of bolts up right in there, probably ground wires there. So out of my donor car, I pulled this wire loom, thinking it would be the same. Maybe I could just use it. But I've got some different colored wires, and oddly I've got a different number of wires here than what I have here. So I think I've got 23 different wires. I've got about 11 of them that are severed. So my idea here is maybe just to simply strip these and connect them, and try and see if I can get things working that way. This is kind of like my last big hurdle here. So it shouldn't be too hard to do this. First thing, I'll strip the ends. Got a little wire stripper here, and see if I can get them all connected up the way they should be, and then we'll kind of go from there. As you can see, the wires are color coded. Got one blue wire here, here's a green wire with a black stripe, green wire with a yellow stripe, and then so on. So these particular wires appear to be very particular, and I can easily match them up with what goes on here. And the rest I got here are these black wires. And some have these little 2 dots here, a little series of 2 dots, and some are just black. But you can see how these aren't unique. These are kind of looking like the same. But I'm thinking that these black ones are going to be ground wires, so it shouldn't really matter too much where they get kind of connected to. But I'll just do the solid black to solid black. I've got kind of 2 of those here that need to go over there on the other side. And then I've got the black with the white dots on them and the corresponding ones there. So I don't know which is which, but I'm guessing since they have the exact same insulation color and pattern, that it shouldn't matter. So maybe I can try and just put all these together temporarily and see what happens. So I've temporarily hooked the wires up, all the ones that were broken, and I've got a headlight again. And the cool thing is I've got a headlight on this side as well. So I guess some wire being broken, either the headlight wire or maybe it's ground wire being snapped, made it not work. So I've got that there. You can see I've got the blinker on the light. So actually everything's working except for my high beams. So there's the high beam light right there. High beams aren't coming on. So I'm not quite sure why that is. But I can see everything else is working. And so if I get the wires all hooked up, soldered together, back the way they should be, that should really do the job. And the high beam wire is just a solid green. Maybe I can look and see, make sure that green wire is all good through here. So this is a pretty good sign for things. It means I can go ahead and just start fixing these wires. And once that's the case, then I can put the headlight lens back in and get the lights in and get this thing drivable again. So here we are with all the wires opened up again. Just for fun, I'm doing some testing. So I've got the power on and lights on and so forth. And so this blue wire looks like it goes to my headlights. So that blue wire, for example, that's hot with the headlights on. Okay, and this one looks like it goes to the blinker, and that's actually blinking. So the blinker works. Now down to my original trouble is this wire here, the green one, is for the high beams, and that's not coming on. So for some reason this wire is not hot, and that's a fun thing to try and track down. What I did discover is that right here in this fuse box we have fuses, and each headlight has its own fuse. So we have an actual left and a right fuse for the high beams and a left and right fuse for the low beams here in these banks here. And so I believe these two fuses, these 10 amp fuses, are for the high beams. I pulled these fuses out and both of them look good. So we have our high beam problem still, but I'm just going to start putting these wires together as they need to be. I'm not sure I can figure out what the high beam problem is, but I can drive the car without my high beams, maybe have someone look at that later on. I'm not sure it's necessary, but I pulled the negative battery cable off, so we have no power, and I'm going to start soldering up the things that I know need to match up. And obviously the wires or the insulation is color coded, so I can easily do some of those there. The black ones are most likely all ground. As we see, the black ones all kind of go here, which is like some ground nuts right there. So anyway, for my soldering needs to put the wires together, I've got a little torch here. I've got some solder and flux right here, and then some shrink sleeve tubing. And that's really about all we'll need to kind of get this going here. The important thing to remember is let's make sure we put on the shrink sleeve tubing before we actually solder up the wires. Okay, so here is my soldering job here. Not the most wonderful thing in the world, but they're all there. And I was a bit mistaken about what was happening before. So here's the strange thing. With all the wires hooked up, I've got this headlight low beam working, but I was mistaken. Over here, this is the low beam that was not working. This high beam was working, but this high beam won't work right here. And so that's kind of my mystery at the moment, my latest big problem. So I've got everything working with the lights except only one low beam, and then only the other alternate high beam will work. So this might be an electrical conundrum that is beyond my ability to diagnose. And after coming so close here, I think I'm just going to have to admit defeat. So my replacement headlight lens in here with all 4 bulbs. You can see here's my standard beam, which is good, no high beam. But oddly enough, when I have the standard beams on, I have the high beam over here, but I can't get the low beam on. The marker lights and the blinkers work just fine. I've tried everything I could think of. These fuses right here, these bottom 2 control the high beams, 1 for each bulb, and these control the low beams, 1 for each bulb. I've tested those fuses, and those fuses are good. Now here's something kind of hard to find info on, but this dealio right here, this is the positive terminal fuse or fusible link. It has several relays or large fuses in there, and I'm not really sure the difference between a fuse and a relay. I thought maybe it could be a problem because some info I had said one of these down here controls the headlights. So I got a replacement one from Amazon. This is what it looks like, and there's a 60 amp relay or fuse right here that's supposed to have some input or be part of the circuit for the headlights. I thought I would replace this as a last-ditch effort, but the crazy thing is, for the life of me, I could not get this nut here to budge. I would have to get that off, to take this off completely, and then there are cables down there that plug in here. Without having this off, I couldn't really get those off to test it and see, because this one's going to be on the old one here. And I mean, I used penetrating oil there, let it soak, I heated it up, and I just couldn't budge this. Part of the problem is this whole thing that it sits on. When I try and put force on it, this kind of wiggles because it's just held on here by that positive terminal. So if I could have gotten this nut off, I could replace this whole piece here to see if that had any effect. Now, I really don't think it does. I kind of looked down there, and just kind of to see on this replacement one, everything looked fine right here in this area for this relay right down there. It looked okay, but what do I know? So I've examined all the wires and everything in here. Obviously the impact happened here, and this whole fuse box got kind of pushed in and scrunched in, but everything looks okay. This whole piece here, this whole box, actually will remove. You can just pull some tabs here, it just comes right out. All these things will unplug. But it looks solid, not cracked or dented or any kind of physical damage that I can see. So I just have no idea. I mean, it makes sense that something's wrong with this fog light area right there, or not fog light, but high beam. But why would this high beam be coming on without, when the normal low beams are on? I just don't get that at all. And I've double checked all my connections here, and I've connected these wires accurately. All the 11 wires that snapped. Even these ones here, which are ground, see the ones that are black and have this little, the 2 dots? I was able to match up which end here went to which end here based on where the break was relative to the dots. If the break was right near the dot, I could look and see where that corresponding one was in the other wire. So even though these being ground, it shouldn't matter at all. But the important ones here are this blue one. This blue one is the wire to the low beam headlight, and that's working. And there's one that's just plain green. I think that's this one right here. And it's the only one, and that goes to the high beam, and it's not working. But I tested this wire, and this wire was not hot. I couldn't get any type of electricity through this wire as I tested it on this end, and this is the undamaged end. And I followed it along here as much as I could, and I don't see any damage. This wire appears to be intact. And all these 11 wires got soldered together, and I can see they're working for the most part because if this blue one's obviously working because I got the normal low beams there. The one for the marker's working, and the one for the blinker's working. So the weird thing is my high beam, low beam combination. So at this point, I'm just going to have to admit defeat because I've exhausted everything I can for testing this, and take it to a place maybe that deals with collisions and can do some electrical diagnostic and tell me what's wrong. I still hold out a little bit of hope, although not much, that this fusible link here is the solution, and if that got put on and plugged in correctly, it might solve the problem. But since I can't pull this nut off no matter what I do, I can't really try it, even though I'm very doubtful that this is the problem there. So I can't see anything else, and I'm so close. I've got all the parts I need. I've got the foam pad that goes right here on the bumper. I've got the actual bumper cover and grille ready to go. I've got the this bracket put on. I've got the lip liner ready. I just need to take these wires and wrap them all up and put them in the conduit here and pop that bumper on, or the bumper cover. But I've got to figure this out, and I figure I might as well just not put it on because anyone that's going to check it is going to need to get it off anyway, so I'll just leave it off for now. I've got to find some professional to check this out and see what's going on, and hopefully there's an easy solution to it. So after spending a day at a collision specialist whom I paid to diagnose the electrical problem, here's what ended up happening. Just going to remove this air intake right here. Okay. There was a loose cable right here, which was just kind of hanging right around here, and it had black wires coming out of it. It was just hanging down loose, and looked like it needed to go somewhere. It had a connection on the end to go through a bolt and get on somewhere. So after checking everything out and going through and following cables and checking all the fuses, double checking that, the person working on this figured out that this was a problem, found a place to reattach it in there, and even taped up and put everything nice looking right here. So it's all good now. The lights work as they should. I've got my normal beam and my high beam, everything working. So weird stuff there. Just this cable kind of hanging loose in here, some sort of ground cable, disconnected from, not sure from where or why. Maybe it was the impact knocked it loose, probably was. That was the cause of the weirdness. Nothing else too strange or unusual. And it just took someone to poke around and figure that out. And of course money. So there we are. Low beam headlights. Low beam headlights. Can't quite see there, but working as they should. And the high beams also work. So that problem solved, and only took money and an expert. The solution was fairly simple, I guess. So I'm going to return this positive battery terminal fusible link there. I got it from Amazon, so easy returns. That'll go back. I'm going to replace this broken plastic piece right here on this wiring with pieces that I took from the donor car right here. Now remove this air intake connection here just so that I can get here nice and easy, so it's not in the way. And here's a little white zip tie that holds this piece to the wires in there. So I'm going to cut that. There we go. And that piece just falls off. And so now I can take this piece, which a little bit broken, but in a lot better shape. I'm just going to put it over here. I don't drop it. Put it over here and put this in place on top to cover up those wires. So here's this piece on top. I put my own little zip tie right to there, binding it to the wires, or binding it to the wires. Mine's black, so I hope that's okay. And then there's this little sort of plastic piece that goes over here, so it holds it in place. And then that should keep those wires protected. Hopefully my wiring troubles are over. And I put an extra zip tie right across the top here, because this part wasn't being held in very well. There's a little prong that kind of comes out here and holds it. There's also a piece that has a wider cap that fits in this little slot here, and looks like that the impact broke off that. It's just plastic on here. So this was kind of flopping around a little bit loose. The other side here was doing okay. So I put a little zip tie here just to hold these two ends together, and now it's pretty nice and secure, so nothing should be coming off.